All right, well, welcome to our very hands-on webinar about AI fields. So AI is both exciting and can be a bit of a mystery. And what does it mean? What does it look like? It's going to be a very hands-on demo, so you could actually see what AI fields looks like and what it's capable of inside Filevine. And to kind of kick things off, I'll do some introductions. So Juliette, do you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Happy to, Troy. Thank you. My name is Juliette Faraone, and I am one of the product owners here at Filevine, specifically for AI fields as well as docs, and everything that touches. So my background is primarily in legal and legal tech. I was a paralegal for about 5 or so years, then worked within legal software before coming here to Filevine. So really excited to speak with you all today about AI fields.
Great. Over to you, Kendall.
Hi guys, my name's Kendall and I am here with Vine Skills. So my background was as a paralegal for about 7 years, and I was at a firm that launched with Filevine, and I just wanted to be in on the action. So that's how I ended up here, and I'm super excited about AI fields and I can't wait to talk about them.
That's great. And I'm Troy, the founder here at Vine Skills. We have a lot of internal conversations about what are the best practices. We get excited and nerd out on helping firms be more productive with technology that's centered around Filevine. And so this was a chance to kind of have that internal conversation with y'all, and feel free to put questions in the chat. We will have a Q&A at the end, so if we don't get to them in context, know that we'll circle back to those. We also have an offer at the end for anyone that attends or watches this webinar. We'll help you get launched with AI fields as best we can. And then I think we'll just jump right into the agenda. So we're gonna talk about what AI fields are, and I think sometimes more importantly what they aren't, what they do, what they should not do or cannot do. How does it work? Very tangible. When to use them? What are some of the most common use cases for AI fields? And also what sort of time savings that there would be, and so we'll get into that, and then how to get started. Again, very tangible. What it takes to get those turned on and use those inside your own Filevine org, or take a little deeper specific demo if you need to, and then Q&A. So how is, I like this slide. I asked if I could cover this one. Our team's going to do a lot of interactive kind of Q&A throughout it, but how's AI changing law? And, I really like Ryan Anderson's quote of, AI is not going to replace attorneys, but firms that utilize AI will replace firms that do not utilize AI. So you could think of it like, back in the days of the internet, if you thought, well, I'm not going to embrace that. We bill hours and we got our paper files. We all know that's in the history books now. And I think the history books have yet to be written here, but there's just really exponential technology that can really help you review documents much faster, much more accurately, to get summaries and understand where they're at. I think of some research that someone at law school, a friend of mine, and he's like, yeah, I could point AI to certain documents and say, tell me where in this document does it talk about this topic, and how long it would have otherwise taken to scan the whole document, gut it, and find that information. So lots of use cases. If you're not using AI personally yet, dig in and get familiar, and that'll even help your business context of what you do. So particularly on this slide, and you can take any kind of financial analysis with a grain of salt. Every business is a little bit different, but the concept, I think, rings true. So if you have a certain number of documents per month, medical records, depositions, general evidence, you can, what are the labor hours to review those documents from scratch and take notes as you go? Writing that first version of a summary is a bit laborsome. So if you can have an AI prompt, and we're looking at 5 prompts, and you'll see what prompts look like in a minute, but against your medical records or with depositions, you can not only summarize the deposition, but you can ask AI to identify inconsistencies in the deposition. So that's going to be a great demo, something that is difficult to do, and it's hard sometimes to get one long read where you're like, I'm going to go through this and remember where on page 2 it now is saying something different on page 6. And then what's the labor that typically goes into having somebody do that document review from scratch? What about the AI powered side of things? And this column for the cost per document, this slide's a little bit old, so there's a few pricing models that we could cover. The most common pricing model right now is a flat fee per project. to use AI as much as you like. Because like I mentioned, you may have a few prompts that you run against a medical record to get chronology or CPT codes or medical summary. So you can run it as much as you like on a per project basis and not be concerned about, variable cost per project. So either way that you can kind of throw in, there's an AI component in the cost side. And then you still have labor hours. You just have fewer labor hours to review those documents. So that's a kind of a compelling reason. There's also a nice paper we could include in our follow-up email from a legal ethicist that wrote an opinion paper around how do you consider legal research from a financial standpoint? Much like your Westlaw bills and things you're doing that you may pass on as a case cost. Their opinion was that this sort of technology is something that is very aligned with something you'd pass on as a case cost as well. That's up to you how you want to handle that. But know that you would be in I think, good company to consider that part of the legal research that's being done. Anything I missed there, Juliette or Kendall?
I don't think so much you missed. I know that we're packing a lot of information in this one. I think one area that is really important as we're establishing what AIFields is and is not, is the question that we've been thinking a lot when figuring out, okay, is this document a good candidate for AIFields? Is this something that I want to be able to use within my firm? And a couple of things. One, attorneys, legal teams, no stranger to documents, right? So as Troy mentioned, there's all sorts of documents that these firms use, that you all use. Medical records will come in pretty frequently, whether you're a PI firm or you're any firm that deals with, injuries to individuals. Deposition transcripts, we know, can be pretty lengthy, and it happens every single time. It's not a rarity that these documents will come in. So for all of these documents, the question behind legal fields or AIFields is, what do I want to know out of this document before this document is in front of me, before I see it, before I can scan it? Are there questions or key points that I would need to know automatically and every single time? So that's something that we've baked into AIFields. And AIFields is a series of inputs and outputs. So you can think of these documents as what's going into the AI, what the AI will be instructed to evaluate. And the output, of course, is the analysis results. So AIFields is a way to extract key information, summaries, red flags, inconsistencies from documents as soon as they are ingested into Filevine. It happens automatically and every single time. So it wouldn't be a situation where maybe down the line you have a very specific question about a certain injury from a document, but it would be a way to surface all of the injuries from a certain set of medical records. So though Filevine is working on a tool to more and more allow that really direct querying, AIFields seeks to answer those really broad questions that you would have, again, every single time. And this is all secure within Filevine. So I think that's another key point. So often, I remember back when I was a paralegal, starting these summaries of depositions or starting medical chronologies, I would often jump outside of whatever legal software we were using, and I would work in a Google Doc, or I would work in an email to myself, or even just a notepad. And that's great, and it works up to a point. But when you want to actually keep the information there and in the system, you don't want to risk any security issues. You don't want to risk any just rework, duplication of steps that you've taken. You want to make sure it's available for your teammates. It's there ready to share. And I think AIFields answers nearly all of that. So it's a way to improve on the human element, keep everything super consistent and inside Filevine automatically every single time.
Yeah.
I think we can go on to the next slide from here. There's a couple of key points we want to talk about when it comes to AIFields before we jump into our live demo. And of course, as Troy mentioned, this is very much aimed to be conversational. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat for sure, raise your hand. So saving time. And I love that slide earlier because it shows a little bit more of a measurable way to save time. But so often when I talk with paralegals, when I talk with attorneys, I'll ask questions like, how long does it take you to summarize a deposition? How long does it take you to generate a medical chronology? Those are two big examples we'll be coming back to because they're two of our more frequent use cases for this. And answers I get sometimes will be in the hours range, sometimes will be in the days range, but most often what I hear is, I can't really tell you. It depends. Because so often as a human, right, we are interrupted, We are called to multitask. There are fires that we need to put out. We'll get a knock on the office door. Hey, someone's here to see you. So we can't really reliably come up with a good solid number because we're doing other things. That's what we're good at. The AI is less good at that, but it is very, very gifted and very good at focusing on a task at hand and knocking it out all at once. So the AI is not going to say, hold on, I need to go get coffee. The AI is not going to be brought to call out, call a client or put out a fire.
Yeah.
Whenever you set up AIFields, right? The point is it's every time automatically just chugging along in the background, and then it's done. And when it's done, you can go there. Human eyes can review it. This is not a replacement. You'll hear that a lot. It's not a replacement for human review. In fact, I think it's on one of these slides, but it should supplement it. It should support it. We know that, the state of generative AI, although we love it and we're familiar with it, it is very much not going to replace the human brains that are required to work on these cases.
Yeah.
So I think very often you'll hear it called like a first pass at information gathering. And I think that's really important to note.
And it's not yet going to reach out with empathy to connect with your client and provide updates. But
No.
if document reviews cut in half or by 80%, I just imagine the time that's freed up to be client facing and how valuable that is.
And I want to highlight the importance of that for the paralegal too, because your paralegal is one primarily working on these documents, and I'm sure you're obviously touching on them as an attorney, but just the paralegal's time is cut in half because they're also on phone calls as well. So like Juliette said, it's a great supplement.
And it's allowing you not a replacement for humans, but potentially you can take on more at the same time. So I've heard from users, hey, this allowed me to add on more cases so I can split my time across more. And I think that's a really key point as well. In terms of improving accuracy, one thing I really love about a lot of our prompts is that we tell AI to put on its like third-party objective perspective hat. We say, approach this document, approach this particular situation with a fresh pair of eyes, so that as a human, whenever maybe I'm reviewing a deposition and I'm trying to pull out those red flags, I may have a little bit of bias, right? Because I've worked with this person. I'm familiar with their case. The AI does not have that bias. It applies that third-party, really objective perspective to combing over that document. So it may surface things that you wouldn't necessarily have thought of. It may allow you to raise those questions that you didn't have going into the particular case. So sometimes we'll notice as users are reviewing the inconsistencies results, and we're going to see one of those on the call today, hey, I wouldn't have thought of that. It's wild that I picked that up, because it's really just, again, applying this fresh perspective to the document every single time. And there are other prompts where less of an objective perspective is called. Some of our discovery prompts, we actually instruct the AI to think like the opposing counsel. What would the opposing counsel care about in this document? Let's say it's a set of responses to requests for production or responses to interrogatories. What would the opposing counsel object to ahead of time? So you can really, really level up, get that, first pass of information ready to go.
Nice.
And then in terms of a wide range of document types. So this, the key point here, we know all sorts of documents will come in and go out within an organization. So we've targeted and we've created so far over 40 pre-configured analysis types, or prompts, you'll hear me call them back and forth, where we've selected then the document type and the individual prompt that you could run. We'll see a list today as we set up a couple, but like police reports, email correspondence, letters, discovery documents, contracts, insurance policies. There's so much that this can touch. And if you're not seeing it today, but it's a common document for you all, we hear that a lot as well. Hey, can you do this? Can you do that? Subpoenas, settlement orders, scheduling orders. Definitely, if it's not something we've thought about already and are in testing, because there's quite a few there, we are always, always interested to hear how we can better support this and better level up our tool. Excellent. I think we hit on this point a little bit. What I will say still, I think the more we speak about it, the more people tend to grasp it, is that AI, especially generative AI, it is not a replacement for human judgment, but at the same time, it is a little bit more like a human mind than like simple programmatic code. So it may surprise you. If you give it the exact same job, let's say every day for a week, you tell it to summarize the same medical record. Now, I don't know why the need would ever arise, but I have heard it from users, hey, it didn't return the exact same thing to me day after day, or it looks a little bit different in its output. Because generative AI works so much based on probabilities, it is very different than programmatic code. And that is known, that is understood going into this. It works a lot more similarly to a human brain. And I think one key piece which really allows us to iterate on this tool is that as you all use it, and you use it in volume and you use it in spades, the more you can provide us with your feedback, the more we can fine tune this tool and really train it to do exactly what we need it to do. So you can think about it like the person, the junior attorney that's hired at your firm, or the new case manager, the new paralegal. If it doesn't return perfect results to you day one, we need to really refine it. We need to work with it. We need to get it leveled up to the space where it can consistently provide valuable results. Now, it doesn't mean you should feel like you have to double your work every single time. Hey, it returned this output and now I need to redo the work. We hope that it only supplements what you are attempting to do. So where we can, we offer page numbers for context. We're looking at future solutions that would offer more direct linking to the source document and sections of the source document to make that document review, that human review element, the verification of the information, so much easier and faster, because I think that's something we'll definitely need to target.
Could I mention on the AI trust part?
Oh, absolutely. I love that.
Yeah.
In terms of what we're doing, right, to guarantee that the AI is reliable, secure, trustworthy, a couple of things going on in the background. One of those that you should all know about is our 0-day retention policy. Meaning the AI model is not holding on to your data, not holding on to your client data. It is used only during the job at hand, and then it's no longer used. It's discarded. So everything remains in Filevine as a document. We pass along the information, meaning the prompt or the set of instructions. We pass along the text that we gather from the document. AI gets to work, comes back, and then it's done. And it can't refer to that information again. So that's one way we control that with 0-day retention. Another is that you may have heard the term temperature, especially if you're big into AI or you've used like a ChatGPT or one of the others out there. Temperature is the setting that controls the level of creativity that an AI has. Meaning, if you set the temperature to something like a 5 or a 10, it can get really creative. It could write you a good short story. It could elaborate on things and make up facts. We like that in some ways, but not for Filevine and not for this particular tool. So we've actually dialed the temperature all the way down to 0, meaning it's not very creative. It couldn't probably make up a joke, but what it can do is extract data from all of these documents reliably. It's not surfing the web. It's not going out there and, asking a friend. It's stuck on the task at hand, focused on the document, and returning only information included therein.
Excellent. My wife is a very good storyteller, so her temperature has turned up quite a bit. And I know people that, are maybe closer to 0, and there's certain questions I want to ask them that I probably wouldn't ask Colleen. But
oh my gosh.
The AI you can trust. So we get a lot of client questions sometimes, like, well, I've got a phone in my pocket with some free stuff on it that does AI. I can open a ChatGPT window and copy and paste my meds, get a chronology. One of the things you need to know is if you're using those, that data in their terms of service feeds their model and is available to then surface in other results. That's not what you want to do with your client data. It's great for writing a story or getting a joke. It'll comb the public internet, and now you become the public internet with your client's private data. So there are, increasing, safeguards in terms of service for certain paid accounts there, but the free services out there, they're free because they feed off of the data inputs they can get.
Absolutely right. Yeah, that's something I've heard from many folks before AIFields was, hey, I love generative AI. I only have to redact every bit of information I put in, and it only takes 5 hours, and then finally I get something back. So I think this is a pretty big improvement over there. I am a little bit biased, of course, but that said, I really like our solution.
Yeah, I get it. Well, it's good. Yeah, you could probably take this one. What will it do and not do?
And I think, we'll touch on a little bit of this. I want to kind of jump straight into a demo because we've talked about it. I think it really helps to have the visual understanding of what the tool is as we kind of go along from here. But one key thing I definitely want to make sure is understood before we jump into a demo is this first point here: perform analysis on text-based documents. That's so very important because OCR comes into play. And for those of you who don't know, and if you're Docs Plus users, Docs Plus customers, this is something happening in the background. It's not an additional setting you need to set up or make sure is enabled. OCR is simply the process of processing text from documents as they're uploaded into Filevine. So PDFs sometimes really messy scans from hospitals. We know that hospitals don't always do the kind thing of cleaning up their records and presenting to us in these lovely little baskets. Sometimes you get what you get, and you get the quality of the documents where they're at. So what we do with our OCR, or optical character recognition, and really just a pass at extracting all of that key information and text from the document every single time it's uploaded to Filevine. And then we feed that off. Feed is maybe a silly word, but it feels like that sometimes. We feed that off, the text, to the analysis engine, to the AI. So as a document comes in, if you can picture it kind of in the background, documents attached or uploaded to Filevine, we grab all of that good text, we turn it over to the AI, and we say, get to work. Here's the analysis instructions. Go ahead and do your thing. We get that information returned to us because, as you mentioned, I said inputs and outputs, right? So the output, or what is returned, is the series of analysis results. And that lives somewhere in a field in Filevine. So however you want to configure it, this is super customizable. Any place that you can attach a file or multiple files, you can turn that into an AI field within a project. So I think that piece is really important to know. This is not, I'm going to jump down a little bit, analyze documents at a rate of seconds per page. We'll see this a little bit more during the demo, but time can vary. So we don't recommend sitting around waiting for it to occur, kind of twiddling your thumbs and watching it load. We do recommend for your users, for your team members, to continue working, do their thing, go in and out of projects, continue to upload documents, come back when you need it, but it's very much designed to be baked into the workflow so it's not a disruption. I've heard of people say, well, do we want, to create a separate section for the AI so we can go there to run something when we want it? No, I see Troy shaking your head. You're absolutely right. We want it to be baked in. So one of the questions we ask when we first implement, where do you store your documents? Where do I go right now to upload a medical record? Where would I go to attach a letter? Because that's what we want to actually turn into an AI field. So I'm going to go ahead and I think share my screen, but any point you want to hit on before I jump into a demo?
I was going to say too, if you're a Filevine user and maybe you don't have document upload fields in context, like you've just been using the doc section and they're not nested in your medical records or your police report sections, it's a really good time to actually put your document upload field in context. And then the AI summaries are right there in context. We're big fans of that because it's already hard to pay attention if you're bouncing around in too many sections of Filevine. So have everything, right where you need it.
Excellent. I think that, as well as I've heard some people say, I just got started with Filevine. Maybe this isn't right for me right now. I would maybe say the opposite. I think that as you're establishing your workflows, it could be a really key time to jump in and say, where do we actually want to inject the AI for its benefit?
I will hand the screen share over to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So I'm going to hop in just directly into a project, and I'm going to maybe jump back and forth a couple of tabs here because I definitely want to explain the context a little bit first. So I am in a very simplified project. So know that offhand, this is not going to look exactly like your project sections, like your custom sections, because I built this specifically for, you can see it in AIFields demo. So it's very simply baked. But I have a section for my police report, a section to upload it, and then I have a section that I've created as a summary, an output area, where after the AI does its thing, and we can see these magical sparkles, right? That just indicates it's an AI field, it's an AI file attachment field, or it's an AI output field. I can see where it's linked right here. And these can live in different sections as well. So if it's static sections, I can have all of the file attachments in one place, maybe all of the outputs another place where I know the attorney wants to go and review. So that's one thing. But I can see this baked out here. I'm going to jump one section real quick into a medical section where I can see that there's already been some analysis run. So this is what it will look like when I actually perform that. We'll do it on the call, but I can see some examples already of AI analysis that's provided. Again, I didn't type any of this. I didn't touch it. Some really great details from this medical record, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's take a look at the options that we have for AIFields when I go to set it up. So I'm in the advanced or the customs editor section. There's a little bit of administrative configuration, which would be required. And sometimes, partners are happy to do that for us. You definitely have the ability to go in and customize after the fact, but it could be that, you have a setup that you want to stick to, and then all you need to do from there, you don't have to revisit the configuration. You just continue to upload documents as you would normally within Filevine. Why I'm going to go here real quick is I have already in this section, right? So we saw in my intake section, I have my file attachment and I have one summary area. I'm going to go ahead and connect one more because you're not limited in number of prompts that you want to run against a given file. Meaning if there's lots of information I want to extract from one document, I don't have to attach the document over and over and over. I can do it once. It can run multiple jobs, and then I have all of those results there. So you'll notice I have AI linked summary, which I already created. This is pointed, if I jump in here, to the police report attachment field. I'm going to quickly and show you how easy it is to do one more. We're going to go in and select multiple lines, and I'm going to say ambiguities. I know that's a tough one for me to spell on a live demo, but I think I managed. I'm going to toggle this on for AI analysis. And this is what I really wanted to show. This is where you would be able to see within Filevine all of the long list of prompts that we have available right now. So pre-configured, out of the box, and ready to use prompts. And we have over 40 of them broken out by document type.
Can I comment on that real quick? So the prompts, like you probably all have a friend that, you know, they know how to Google really well. It's just like they know how to ask the right question and get to the right place and use the advanced tools. So prompts, if you haven't played around with any AI tools, knowing how to structure your question is really a big part of the art. So by and Filevine, like just the med, you know, chronology was something like 3 pages or 3 paragraphs. It's a very long prompt to ask for certain things, exclude certain things, notice this, pay attention to that, you know. And so getting those prompts nicely packaged the way Filevine's done really controls the quality of the output and keeps you from having to kind of reinvent that search or that prompt on your own each time. I think that's a valuable point. You'll hear them.
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah, analysis fields and prompts, or analysis and prompts, kind of interchangeable. So.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing, I know when I use one of these generative AI tools on my own, and let's say like, hey, I need an email back to my cousin because they wrote me and I need help with that. I don't get it perfect the first time. It's exactly what Troy mentioned. If I'm, you know, putting on my prompt engineering hat, it's kind of a series of negotiations until I get that perfect output. So what we've attempted to do with AIFields and all of our pre-configured prompts is get you to that final stage. So you would be able to just execute, to just have the AI answer the question. And that's not to say there won't be some element of control you would be able to have. We're actually a little bit in the future, we're working on a way to allow keyword customization, level of detail customization. So there will certainly be options and opportunity for users that have a little bit more specificity they want to inject into their prompts. But for AIFields, the intention is broad summaries, extractions, analyses of these given document types. So a little bit of a different use case there, and very good point, Troy. So now that I've connected these, you can see here I've added a prompt that runs and identifies any areas of contention, any unclear areas from a police report. We're going to jump back in here and have something run while we're waiting. So I'm going to refresh my page because I did make that one change. And then we're going to throw in a couple of files and just have it going on in the background as we talk about what's expected at that point. So let me go ahead. I think I've already attached. Yeah, I came in here earlier. I wanted all of these to undergo that OCR, that first step when I upload a document. So these are all done and ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and select my redacted police reports. So no private information on this one. It's good to demo. I'm going to click save, and then right away, I should notice a couple of things. I notice this. I hover over it if I am so inclined, and it tells me that AI analysis is in progress. So for that given document, I have this ability. If it were an upload straight from my device, I would more than likely see OCR in progress because that's step 1, and then it automatically uploads and goes to analysis in progress from there as step 2. If I ever have a question about, is this document OCR, is this not, I find this pretty useful. So occasionally I'll come down here and just go to file properties, and that'll tell me, hey, OCR is completed if I have any questions. Again, not something that would be expected to happen every time or even most commonly, but one of those troubleshooting scenarios that I wanted to mention as well on this call. So I have my police report. I'm going to hop into it so we can actually see what the AI is being assigned with. It's a little bit of a complex form. It's not the longest document in the world, but AI evaluates these documents at, again, a rate of seconds per page. So it's about 3 to 5 seconds per page, multiplied however many pages that there are. And we can see there are about 8 pages to this document, but it's not the cleanest copy in the entire world. It's a complex form. There's lots of little boxes here. It's not necessarily left to right text. So it's a little bit of a challenge for the AI. And fortunately, you know, we have it configured to a place where it can successfully and reliably glean that information from this document. So I have a summary here. I have some charts. I have some images. I'm going to keep scrolling. We can see where it's been redacted. And I have, yeah, basically the gist of a police report here. So again, it shouldn't take too long in Filevine. And actually, we can see it's done. In the moments that it took us to look at the document, AI analysis successful. So refresh the page. Let's go ahead and take a look at the results. And then we'll highlight a couple of things in these results. Excellent. So we can see it ran both jobs successfully. I see at the beginning of all of my AI jobs and at the end of all of my AI jobs, a header and a footer. And that is because we support multiple file uploads for AIFields, meaning if this were a multi-doc upload field, and I'm going to jump into one where it actually is one, in this section, if I were to continuously add records and records and records, I would want to have some understanding of where one job starts and the other job ends, of job to job to job. How is it broken out? Because right now, AI analysis will run one document at a time, but I'm able to upload multiple documents to the same AI field. So as I scroll through this, I can see my details. And at the very end, I'm going to go a little bit fast for this one. I have, scroll down, AI field analysis end. And that'll happen every single time. So it'll be a really clear and easy way to tell when one job starts and the next begins. So I'm going to come back into my intake and see what key details were actually surfaced by the AI. Let's take a look at this. So we have with our police summary, it's a little bit of a structured summary. So every output is a little bit different. We have some examples that are available for you, but right here, it'll highlight the incident summary itself. Where it's able to, it'll pull out the named parties. So driver 1, driver 2, it should provide their names. It should provide contact information a little bit down. So we see here driver 1, address, phone, all this information surfaced per party for this given document. And although the information may, of course, vary from report to report, this structure should be largely followed. So you'll start to get more and more familiar with AIFields and the expected outputs as you run these jobs across your organization. I have the outcome. Looks like it offered me the citations and other details that were gleaned from that report. A couple of updates that we're working on now in the background are surfacing weather details and whether or not the individuals were seat belted, because we know those are usually critical items. But once we know the information we want to surface, so if there's another question that you all have that you want us to include in our police report summary, they're fairly quick insertions to make and updates to make. And we just then, test it, same routine as the rest of our prompts, and then we can release. So we can see this one for summary, scrolling down a little bit for ambiguities, and these are just created as multi-line text fields or large text fields. They're fields within Filevine, so they can be reported on. They can be referenced in DocGen as codes. They can be referenced in FVDA. There's a lot of really cool stuff they could actually do within .vine and FVDA, so that's one area I would definitely recommend exploring. But pulled into reports, exported if you're working in a collection section. So there's a lot of options that we wanted to maintain by just having them built in as fields in Filevine. So we have the witness statement is somewhat unclear and why. The driver statement lacks some details. So good areas for an attorney to be able to start their starting off point to dig in a little bit deeper. This alerts you to all of those. Any questions? I'm going to jump to the chat. It doesn't look like we have any so far. Troy, Kendall, anything else you guys would mention over what we're looking at right now?
Something that I really love is exactly what Juliette said, is being able to report on it and pulling out summaries. So I actually had a client recently who was like, how do I just see this like in and of itself? And we built it out as a report in like a Word document, and it was just super great for them to just see it all in a Word document.
Most definitely. What I like, let's go ahead and run one on a medical record, and I'll talk to you about what I like in the background and why I wish we would have had this tool when I was a paralegal. So I'm going to go ahead and attach a medical record here. I'm working in a collection section. So as Kendall mentioned just then, this would be a section where I would have those export options. I could send this to a sheet. I could send this, to a PDF file. I'm going to attach a medical record, and we're going to say one with physical therapy and pain scores. I do have to click create or save. That's the one piece that sometimes I still hear, like, what is the actual act that kicks off analysis? It's creating that collection section item, or it's saving that static item. But the thing I really love, and our medical chronology surfaces so many details. For every date of service, this is what we instruct the AI to pull out. So where they're available, where these details are included within the record. For each date of service, it should hit on chief complaint, procedural codes, pain score, diagnosis, treatment, and follow-up. So you may notice that there are prompts for these separate jobs, like CPT codes is a prompt itself, ICD-10-CM codes is a prompt, injury summary is a prompt. I like chronology because it kind of grabs all of those and makes it a little bit more holistic and comprehensive as a window to the case. But I like it because it takes my brain out of that computer mode. when I was a paralegal, I would feel like I had human tasks and I had computer tasks. And it would always be the computer tasks that took the most time, but were the least actual like usage of my brain. It would be like, well, I have to put on my computer hat now and I have to be a human processor. And I have to look for all of these data points that I feel like there should be some better way out there to do. And I like this because it does just that. It gets me that first pass at information gathering, at extracting those key points. It calls out the pages where those points were listed. So me as a human, I can put my human hat back on when I get the AI results, and I can comb through the document and match those things up and say, okay, well, it got some details from page 7, and it looks like page 8 was maybe an image. So I could note that in here, because these fields are designed to also be editable. If I needed to throw in a note and save it, I absolutely have the ability to do so. I've also seen some situations where under the large text field, users or admins will create like a yes or no or a mini text box field for the attorney to go in and select whether they've approved that particular analysis. So I think a lot of great options there. But you can see here for this given medical record, and it's not a 1,000-page medical record for these tests. I don't want to just sit here and have us all kind of watch as it loads, but it's about 70 pages of information, some of it redacted, but I promise not all of it redacted. So you get some good info here and about 70 pages. And we have, those details already surfaced. In addition to medical chronology, this is that example as well of having one document populate multiple areas. So I have pain scores that were pulled out from that document in chronological order. I have injuries and treatment that were surfaced from this document. So I can scroll down and see all of those injuries, all of the treatment they received. And again, pages for those. Sample deposition questions is a really interesting one that allows the AI to use its brain a little bit more. Although we don't adjust the temperature, we do within the prompt, give it a little bit of an ability to think critically and think creatively. So here it's going to come up with questions that you might ask this expert at an expert deposition. And we have that list again, all run from the same click of this button, uploading that document. And it looks like our next one is done as well. I'm going to go ahead and refresh our page to see the results. I am going to jump to the Q&A chat. Okay. Questions to be answered later. Oh, okay. I can hold off then if we want to continue with the demo. But yeah, I know, Troy, you mentioned we were planning a Q&A, so I can start or stop whenever needed. Medical records, it looks like same thing for this given document, which was a little bit shorter. I have date of service, chief complaint, ICD-10-CM codes, you name it. Wherever there's that detail to pull out, the AI is instructed to pull that detail. There may be situations where there's not a code on a given date of service. So what we've instructed it to do on that, if there's not all of those data points or those key details, is to just at least provide a summary. What went on? Because very often we'll find that with big sets of medical records, they won't all be relevant to that particular incident. They may not all even be records. So this will summarize if it's a page that was a letter, an authorization, if it was a bill, it should still attempt to do its best at offering a summary of that information. So you still have a little bit of an understanding where it got it and where you might have to go back in as a human and pull that information out.
You just got to see 5 of the 40 prompts and growing, 2 for police, 3 for medical records. In depositions, one of the ones that I loved when I first saw it was the inconsistencies. And an example of an inconsistency might be something like, they said there were no prior injuries, but later on in the deposition, there was prior injuries. That's going to get called out for you. And I just know my attention span, it'd be hard for me to notice that as a human. But that would really speed up the review process. So.
Oh, totally. And one thing I think you mentioned earlier is like, sometimes as a human, you have to do multiple passes of this same document because summary might be easy the first time, or maybe you have an understanding of like the sequence of events from the case, but red flags, themes, inconsistencies, I don't know about you all, but I know for myself, it would not just take me one pass of the document. I would definitely, although I'm a little at this, going through these deposition transcripts, even back when I was a paralegal, it would be multiple times, 2-3 times for me to actually go in and try to pick out those themes or pull out those patterns that I see that are so important to building a case. Like attorneys need to do that. And this does it for them right away and kind of AI in its corner, not being distracted. So we're running one of these deposition inconsistencies. We're actually running 3 prompts on this deposition. So I don't think it will take too long. Again, this has already been OCR'd, but we'll get a summary with some themes. We'll get red flags. And this is probably my number one favorite prompt in all of the universe right now that we have. Red flags is, you'll see what I mean here in just a second. Inconsistencies as well. So these three running on one given document. And if the AI needs multiple passes like a human would, I don't know about it. It's not telling me it needs multiple passes. It's doing all of that in one go. So I'm going to hop to the questions because we may have some time while this runs. Let's see. How do we build our own prompts? Good question. Does our data get pulled into the main engine or is it kept private to our Filevine instance? So 2 questions. Let's try our best to break those down. 1, how do you build your own prompts? You don't just yet, because we have all of these pre-configured behind the scenes prompts. We wanted to get you to the final state as much as possible. We wanted to get consistent quality results every single time. So many documents are messy scans. We know there's a good deal of digitization that's happening within records, but still you'll see so many faxes, so many scans, so many rotated documents. It was very important to us to cover that first step to not cause user headache, user frustration. We definitely wanted to put the guardrails on, so to speak, behind the scenes. However, we are actively working on a tool that would allow more customization for that prompting, meaning run me a summary of this record, but focus on these 5 keywords that I'm entering in. Get it to me in paragraph form versus bullet point form. Get it to me in reverse chronological order instead of chronological order. So some areas for control, and then longer term to be able to ask follow-up questions from your document, to be able to say, okay, where does it mention traumatic brain injury? Does it mention substance abuse anywhere? Has there already been like a case on this particular individual? Have they already been to, have there been legal issues that have arisen in the past for this particular individual? And where should those be called out in a case? So not just yet, but definitely in the works. We are very interested in offering more and more ability to customize those prompts. Does our data get pulled into the main engine or is it kept private? So the analysis engine is built a little separate to Filevine. It all works together with Filevine, but the information from the text is stored within our indexes in Filevine. We give the analysis engine access to that, again, for that single job, and then it no longer has access. So it's going to be used by the analysis engine, and that's a Filevine build for the one job and then no longer. I hope that answers your question, but let me know if we need to get a little bit more technical.
Yeah, your data is not feeding the mothership of Filevine's
No.
AI engine. It's that the answer to that is no. Down the road, there may be plans to have individual tenants where your data could feed into your experience of Filevine only, but right now it's 0-day retention, so none of the data since the engine is kept, and it doesn't it's not retained by Filevine.
Absolutely not. And there's not like cross-pollination as well, I think, to answer that question. So it's not like one organization's data would be used by another organization's. Within one organization, your data is not being used one job through another job. So yeah, definitely 0 risk for that. If we upload pre-OCR docs, does that cut down the processing time? That's a question I get a lot. And the answer is I wish, because right now, I do understand a lot of folks will use like third-party tools, or sometimes the documents will just come to them already OCR'd. But the way that Filevine's OCR works, it kicks off on every single document right off the bat, if it's a PDF especially. So it always has to go through that first pass of information. We are actively exploring ways to optimize that and always cut back on time. Good question. How large can docs be, size or pages? So for size, I'd have to dig into some details and see if we have a little bit more information on. For number of pages, it depends. I would say that OCR itself usually fizzles at around like 2,500 or so pages. It's just not designed to process documents much larger than that. But at the same time, we don't really recommend, and in fact, we actively recommend against storing documents much larger than that, simply because you'll notice other performance areas, other performance pieces start to kind of go downhill beyond a certain point. So it can handle large documents, and it automatically and in the background will divide those up for you. But 10,000 pages, if that's what we're talking about, I would actively recommend against, and just say break those up. When you're bringing them into Filevine, if there's a more organized fashion that you could actually section up those documents, that would more than likely be recommended. Excellent. Oh, I like the bingo feedback, Kevin. Thank you so much. I'm glad to hear something answered your question.
Excellent.
I'm going to go ahead and refresh my page.
I love that if you've used Customs Editor, you can implement AIFields, and I think, do you want to review this and then we'll get into what to do next?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to go in here And we have our summary. We have our deposition red flags, and we have our inconsistencies. And I want to look at inconsistencies for a second, because we have state she does not know what admonitions are, ask for clarification on a question, deposition states she will wait for the questioner to finish questions, cuts off the questioner. So some of these, I will say 100%. They're not always inconsistencies that I would find as an individual reading over a deposition transcript, but sometimes that's what you want, because you want to be alerted to those situations that if they're raising a red flag, the other party, you can count on it. They're going to pick up on it. The opposing counsel is going to see that as well. So that's information that I would call out. This one also, let me see if I can get my screen to a place where we can see it more. Hold on just a second. I'm going to move some Zoom controls around. I hope that everyone can see in here in this red flag analysis, I have summary of events. Scroll down. It breaks it up. It includes page numbers. You'll see line numbers occasionally where that's relevant. And then within red flag analysis, I have primary facts. Scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. Key quotations and admissions. So taken directly from the deposition with page number context. Any contradictory statements. There may not be any that the AI has found, but we still want to call that out. Ambiguous or vague statements. Scrolling down. Evasive or non-responsive answers. Potentially damaging admissions. Corrected statements, you name it. So scrolling all the way down, a general list of red flags, and then finally a summary. So this is stuff, again, I don't know about you all, this would take me some time, and this was something the AI was able to do within minutes. Excellent. Okay, any other questions here? And we can see my meds, I have my analysis, again, start and end with each of those. The analysis we performed on the police report, depositions, there's so many guys, pre-configured prompts, so much value out there. And we are not shying away from adding more where needed. So if there's document types that you guys don't see, but you need supported by AI, let us know. Feel free to reach out, and we'll see what we can do to optimize this.
Great. I will switch back to sharing a screen and hand the mic to Kendall here. So getting started, we are fans of getting the work done and seeing this actually put to work in your law firm. And so, Kendall, you want to mention ways to, what we're offering anyone who's either at this webinar or watches it in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. So Juliette actually mentioned it earlier that sometimes the partners can help out, helping you guys with AIFields. We would love nothing more. Let me tell you, I geek out on AIFields when any of my clients mention it. So there's nothing more that VineSkills would love to do than just help you guys get started with AIFields. Juliette is incredible. She knows what to do, how to, put them in, get them in on the back end. So it might seem super simple when she's doing it, but it might be tough for you guys. So VineSkills would love to help you guys out with just getting started with AIFields. So a great email. If you guys need help, please email us at hello@vineskills.com because we can definitely help you out. In addition, there's some, Filevine released Filevine University. And I always make my clients go through Filevine University because they have 2 awesome AIFields training recordings. So I definitely recommend utilizing that. But if you want the hands-on help, I would love to help you guys. Our team would love to help you guys. So definitely reach out.
Excellent. And I just saw one more question in the chat that I want to be sure to address. How can this be tracked, right? I think it was for tracking expenses, for understanding usage. All of that would go through, we have an AI job report that will track each use of AIFields relative to the project. So you should be able to find out quickly and easily in there. Let's say project is settled, case is settled. Now I want to be able to get out a list of all of the AI times that it was run on that given project. So you have one report type. I believe it's the only, for now, AI report type. So it should be fairly easy to find, but some good documentation about that as well within our support site.
And if you email us, we'll be happy to help. Also get you in touch with your account manager. We'll do that for you and kind of loop you in. But we're happy to facilitate that through that email address. And limited time only, now through October 15th, we will help you for free. So we're fans of doing things to help clients get to know us and us get to know them. So if you email that email address and you're like, hey team, I need help getting AIFields going, we will right away hop on a Zoom call. We won't get into your org, but you share your screen. We'll tell you where to point and click and why, and then also be able to talk through, now that you have AIFields, what are some of the good ways to utilize that in your workflow. Well, good. Well, thanks everyone for participating. Appreciate you being here, or if you're watching it later, thanks for paying attention, and we're looking forward to connecting with some of you. I think that's it.